Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well. We are in Genesis 49 this week. Only one more chapter to go after this. Genesis 50 will be next week. Man, what a journey this year has been through the first book of the Bible, this foundational book, the book of Genesis. And in Genesis 49, it seems, it really says that Jacob is blessing all of his sons, but in a lot of realities, it's more of a prophetic word of what is going to happen to his sons that we see is going to come true, right? Because one of the things we learn in Genesis 49 and really all throughout Genesis is that God really is sovereign. That God is over all, that God is in control of all. And so I don't know about you, but that gives me a lot of hope and peace. I don't have to be if God is, right? If God is in control and God is sovereign, that I don't have to worry about being. I can just worship and praise the one who is in control, the one who is sovereign over it all. So we see that God is sovereign over the entirety of the world, over the entirety of the tribes, over the entire of all the nations. God is sovereign and in control. Another thing we learn from Genesis 49 is we see specifically in the cases of Reuben and Simeon and Levi is that our actions have consequences. You know, what is going to happen to them and their tribes that are represented by these men is that their tribes are going to experience some things because of consequences of the sins and the action of these men. Right, and so our actions do have consequences. That's a reality that we learn from here in Genesis 49. We also learn some things about Judah and Joseph specifically. We know that Joseph is going to be the leaders of the brothers. We know that Joseph is a fruitful vine, that God is blessing him, that he's remained steady because of God. God is his rock, and all of these. He's going to continue to be a leader of the brothers. However, the tribe of Judah is the tribe that is going to be the leader of the tribes. Right, the tribe of Judah is the one that eventually David will come out of, and eventually the Davidic Messiah, Jesus Christ, will come out of. And so we find that out in Genesis 49 because we know that God is sovereign and in control of all of these things. We also understand that at the very end, when Jacob is giving burial instructions for himself, we understand that Egypt is not the land of the promise. That God has given them a promised land, has promised a land to them. They are not there yet, and Egypt is not it. And Jacob wants to make sure that he keeps them in line with the covenantal promise, the promise that God has for them. He wants to keep them in line with what God has told them and God has instructed them, because that is obviously of extreme importance to Jacob. And then the last thing I want to draw your attention to in Genesis 49 is in the middle of all of this, in the middle of saying what's going to happen, in the middle of blessing and prophesying over these brothers, in the middle of all of that, Jacob makes a significant statement in verse 18, and I love this. He just says, I wait for your salvation, Lord. You see, Jacob understands no matter what, that God is the only one who will ever deliver them. That God is the God of salvation. That God is the one who will save. That God is the one who will deliver from their circumstances currently. That God is the one who will take them into the promised land. And as I am speaking these words to this video on Christmas Eve of 2024, Christmas Eve, I think that's a good word for us. That God is still the God who is going to deliver. That God is still the God who is going to save. And we are only saved and only delivered because of God through saving faith in Jesus Christ. And so if you've never placed your faith in Jesus, there would be no better time than this Christmas season of 2024 for you to do that. Maybe you've been waiting for salvation, for deliverance, and you were waiting on this word, that God wants to do that for you through his son Jesus. He loved you enough to send his son Jesus here to take your place. Jesus Christ left his place to come to earth, our place, so that one day he might take our place on the cross, the place that we should have been, and through that invite us to come one day to his place. That's what Jesus Christ did for you, and that's what Christmas is all about. The first coming of Jesus, looking back to what Jesus did and accomplished and how much God loved us by sending Jesus for us, but also looking forward to the second coming of Jesus and the fact that he will come and deliver us from this evil, sinful world, this broken world. He will deliver us from that one day. He will redeem and restore all things one day. And that's what this season is all about. So if you've been waiting on salvation from the Lord, Surrender your life to him this Christmas season because he's in control. He's sovereign. He is the steady rock and the only one who can save and deliver you. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. We'll see you next week for the last chapter in the book of Genesis.